All right. Hey, how's it going, folks? I'm just setting up for podcast with Jon Buda. I'm not sure if he'll let us stream it live, but we'll see. We'll see what he says. Let me just make sure. One thing that's weird about some of these platforms. Here we go. Here we go. Let's see if this is working. Yeah, just trying to figure out if everything's going to the right place. But it looks like it is. And let's see if John's ready here. I'm going to let me also just tweet about it here. How come this isn't working? I should show you folks what I'm doing right now. Just telling people. Oh yeah. See here, I'll show you what I'm using here. Switch to this view. So I'm just tweeting and saying, hey, also live. What's my short key? Also live on Twitch.tv and on YouTube. A little short key there. But man, been talking tons about this. John and I might get into this topic right here. I wrote this blog post called "Why Many Products Struggle and Only a Few Succeed," and basically just telling the story about, in this case, Laravel, and why I think it kind of took over the PHP framework space when so many other things like Cake PHP and CodeIgniter and Zend, Yi, I think that's how you say it, why they didn't succeed, and it did. And there's just this idea of pent-up demand that I think is interesting. So John and I have some notes for this morning's episode, and we'll see if, let's just see if John's ready yet. You ready? Oh, I need to get my, let's get the chat. I can't see the chat right now. Let's go Safari. And let's go to Restream. Does this just bring up my chat for everything? Or do I need to do this every time? Oh, it looks like John's ready. Restream channel. Let's just check things out here. I got to figure out how to get this all working all at the same time. Because, I'm not sure if it, for example, do I need to change this each time? All right, let's make this a little smaller. All right. Cool. Let's do this call. I'm not sure how to do it in, how to bring this in. So let's see if I can bring John in here. Okay.
Yo.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I'm streaming this live right now.
Oh.
So I'm glad you were wearing clothes.
I at least have a shirt on.
Yeah, that's a good step. I just want to experiment with this stuff, and I think, if you're okay with it, it's kind of interesting. Let me hear.
Sure.
I didn't really give you a choice.
No, you didn't. Thanks for that. I'm trying a different setup. I'm in the little recording studio at Cards.
Oh, yeah, it looks awesome, man.
I don't know how I sound. This mic setup is kind of crazy.
You sound incredible. And
Nice.
You look so pro with the thing in the background there, all the soundproofing.
Yeah, we need it today. There's a air show going on in Chicago.
Oh, really?
So there's jets and planes and all kinds of stuff flying around.
It is brutal here. Do you have smoke out east there yet?
No. Are you on fire?
Oh my gosh. Here, I'll show you. What is it?
Oh, no.
BC wildfire map. Basically, you look it up and the whole province is on fire. Where's that one? It's crazy. Okay, I think this is it. Here, I'll send this to you in chat. But yeah, if you want to see like just the whole province on fire,
Oh, no.
that's where we're at here. I'll put it in. Can you see it in Slack?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's so crazy, so brutal.
Oh, my God.
Basically, yeah, if you look at the map, the whole thing is just on fire.
So where are you here?
So I would be way down. Well, basically, you can kind of see cam-loops.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you keep zooming in, you'll eventually see we're kind of... oh, man, this map is not loading very good. But, yeah. So then if you zoom in, you'll see Kelowna, and then you'll see us.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, but my computer's also... Something in my computer's like spiking the CPU, and I don't know what.
Oh.
Trying to figure it out.
Weird.
It's partially Skype, it's something else. Like my typing stalls out occasionally.
Dang.
Anyway, that sucks. I mean, the whole West is on fire, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's apparently getting out east, but I didn't know if it had reached you in Chicago.
Yeah, probably will. I mean, there was some smoke from the airship. Huh. Honestly, I haven't looked at a map of where you live before. I apologize. So I had no idea.
That's okay. I'll forgive you.
Yeah. Now I know.
Now you know. Yeah, so I thought today we could talk about, initially I was thinking we would talk about that blog post I wrote, but the more I think about it, the more I think I want to talk about the problem with podcasts.
Uh-huh.
And just everything that's kind of going on there,
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, and you're in that right now. So
the doc?
Yeah, in the doc.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about that idea?
I like it.
Cool. Anything else we should talk about before we get going?
Let me look at the notes. I feel like I did have something. No, generally, just kind of a long week.
Oh yeah. You were really heads down, eh?
I was also just not sleeping well and had a stomach thing one morning, and I was just exhausted.
Oh no.
So, plus I was not on my workout routine much. So yesterday morning I slept all right. Went running. Went for a long run in the morning, and then swam this morning, so I feel pretty good.
Are you not sleeping good because of Transistor, or is there something else going on?
No, it's nothing in particular. I think I stay up too late, sometimes watching TV or reading.
Yeah.
And that affects my, or maybe I have too late. And I just wake up early, but
yeah.
So last couple nights I went to bed pretty early, especially for the weekend, which is fine. I'm totally okay doing that.
Yeah, I mean sleep is huge, man. It's really important.
I had some friends invite me to a jorts party yesterday.
What is a jorts party?
Jean shorts.
Yes.
So everyone dresses up in jorts, in crazy costumes. I think there's even a contest. I had a friend one year who went as Michael Jordan. And so he was Michael Jordan wearing jorts. It's funny, but it's a party for I think a bunch of friends of this other friends did it for a number of years and in their mid-20s and have now picked it up and 30s, and it's just I don't think that was the thing I really needed to do on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Because I would have been a mess today.
Yeah.
Like I would have gotten nothing done.
Yeah. It's hard to control yourself sometimes.
And it's like, I can go there and not drink, but I would have.
Yeah.
And I still wasn't feeling great, so.
See, you did the bigger thing.
Did the bigger thing. Did some work on Transistor, actually. Played around with YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty cool, I think. Should be good.
Yeah, it would be cool to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Yeah.
Later in the show.
There's a lot. We can talk about integrations in particular. I think there's a lot we can do that the fact that everywhere has an API now, there's just like so much you can automate and do. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and even when I looked at your YouTube thing, I instantly thought of Audiogram, and there's an open source Audiogram tool, but there's all these other tools, and they all have APIs.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, the picking your like time segment is a little bit trickier, but you can do that with JavaScript and some kind of timeline editor eventually.
Yeah.
Let me restart Chrome here. I think maybe that's what's doing it.
You're just getting something's not right.
Well, my computer just sort of like freezes for a sec, and like my typing won't work, and you'll stutter.
Okay.
I don't think it's your connection. It's my computer.
I mean, I'm running a lot of stuff on this machine right now.
Me too, and I think maybe so. This mic setup and headphones are plugged in via USB, and I wonder if it's doing something. Let me just restart this.
All right.
Sure. Hold on. And we'll get to it. Hopefully, recording on Sunday is not a big deal for you. I know it's just been really hard for me to do it during the week. It's like it's such a context switch in the middle of the day that I'm never ready. And then I feel bad, and then I have like coworkers, who ask me for stuff, and even if I do it during lunch, it's really hard. I don't know if we want to try to switch to a weekend thing if we can.
Yeah, maybe we should just so it's not so stressful for sure.
Yeah, I always have to push it back, and then it's the end of the day, and
yeah, that's no fun. And we want this to be. I mean, this show has to serve us too, and so if we feel like it's not, then let's
right.
Let's rejig it.
Okay, one second. I'm just going to open up. Man, what is going on? Let me open up a different browser. I'll just use Firefox or something.
Okay.
Give me one sec. How's your weekend been?
It's been good. I mean, it was so smoky. Like yesterday, we were like, okay, there's this indoor play place for kids called Energyplex, and we're like, okay, it's so smoky. Like people can't go outside. If you look at the smoke rating, it's like just don't go outside at all. It feels very apocalyptic. It feels like we're in the global warming future, and it's kind of freaking me out a little bit because it's, I mean, I don't know if I can show you this. It'll probably ruin my whole setup here, but by the way, look at this. It's crazy what setup, but oh yeah, see, you're not going to be able to see out the window, but it basically is completely, it looks like it looks like our town is on fire. It's not. And it's very cold.
Huh.
So it should be like 30 degrees right now, but what is that? It's cold outside, and
Weird.
Because we haven't seen the sun in a week.
Huh.
So it's 21 degrees. It's way colder than it should be, and it gets darker way faster. Like normally in the summer, it's bright until like 10 o'clock, and now it's like dark at 7. It's so weird.
It's like nuclear winter.
Yes, and yeah, it's scary.
Huh. I watched a couple movies recently that, unbeknownst to me, both kind of dealt with climate change in a different way.
Okay.
One was First Reformed, which is a movie with Ethan Hawke, about this priest that he has some past issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
But he has he's like counseling this woman's husband. She's pregnant. He doesn't want to have a kid because he works for like this sort of like Greenpeace-like organization where he protests environmental companies and oil companies and stuff.
Yeah.
And like doesn't want to have the kid because he's just like, everything is basically a mess and nothing's going to get better and we're screwed and I don't want to bring my daughter up in this world.
Yeah.
It was a really good movie. And then last night I ended up watching Only Lovers Left Alive. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh man, it's so good. Jim Jarmusch movie.
Only Lovers
It's
Alive.
Tilda Swinton and what's his face? Tom Hiddleston.
Okay.
It's about these two. They're essentially vampires who have been alive for like 2,000 years, and they're just sort of like, they're married, and he's like he's a musician, but he's like super depressed about everything.
Yeah.
It's not really funny. It was really good. I had been recommended it a long time ago.
Is it scary? Because you know how I feel about...
It's not. It's not scary at all. There's no like, it's not an actual... But in the sense that like they live in the modern day world, they don't actually bite people anymore.
Okay.
They have ways of getting blood.
They're reformed.
And yeah, kind of. But he's always like, he calls humans the zombies who are just destroying their world, and it's good.
All right.
It's really good. I don't know if you like Jim Jarmusch movies. They're a little weird sometimes, but it's like super good music. And
okay, I'm gonna recommend this to my wife. Really wants to see a movie.
Yeah, it's a slow burner, but it's not like his movies aren't like, there's not some huge arc with some big payoff. It's just like an interesting story.
Yeah.
So it's set in Detroit, which is actually really interesting to see in that light, and say Morocco or something.
Okay.
It's really good.
All right.
I was surprised. Anyway,
I'll check it out. Now, there's one person chatting right now, Woodworking Fangirl, and she says she wants me to take a picture and then show you. And so let me do that, and then we can get on with the show. Hold on.
okay.
It's not. I'll just take it. I don't know if you'll be able to see how smoky it is, but I'll try. I mean, it's just gonna look really gray. Is the problem? I don't know what they call that in video games, but you know how in video games you have that fog, and it's not fog of war. Fog of war is when you like walk around the map and figure stuff out.
Oh, like volumetric fog, I think they call it.
Yeah. But a camera doesn't really pick that up super well, right? So, okay, I'm just gonna text this to myself because I'm just hardwired in here. Let's see if this works. And I'll post it in Slack as well. And I'll show the folks at home who are watching what it looks like. How come this is not? Oh, there.
Have you had anything like that before?
We've always had forest fires ever since I moved here, but this is the worst year by far.
Yeah, I mean, California is just a disaster.
Just imagine what you hear about California and, Washington. That's what it's like here.
Okay. Huh.
Okay, so how can I show? I'll just bring this up on my screen here. Hold on. And I'll pull it into Slack for you. But, it just looks yucky. I mean, it looks like maybe pollution in China or something. Like, it's just...
Where'd you post that? In Slack?
It's just uploading right now to Slack, yeah.
Okay.
So that's out that window here in my office. But
when I lived in San Diego for a year, and there was a fire in L.A., but it wasn't really smoky. We got some ash, but it wasn't like bad. It was like you couldn't go outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
Oh, wow, that's weird.
And people are wearing the masks and stuff.
It's just like dusk.
Yes.
All the time.
But it's 1:00 in the afternoon right now. And the weird thing is there's mountains behind all of that. You just can't see them, right?
Wow.
And my camera, if you kind of look on the right, you can kind of see a hill there. But just imagine there's more hills and mountains behind that image. And, it's a weird time, man.
Yeah, God, it's weird. Yeah, it's not good.
No, and it like I said, it makes me worried. But it's a great day to record a podcast.
Sure is. It's hot out here. I got a nice coffee, some water.
Cool.
Hey, I'm just looking through the notes here.
I want to try something actually. When we do, let me see if I can. I'm going to play a little video bumper so that when people watch this on YouTube, they see a cool video. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to switch. How do I do this? I've got scenes here. Can I change this on the fly? Okay, hold on. Should have done this at a different time. All right, so there's me again, but... and are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay, let me play our transistor video, Build Your SaaS bumper, and then...
Okay.
All right, let's go.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Build Your SaaS. This is the behind-the-scenes story of building a web app in 2018. I'm Jon Buda, a software engineer.
And I'm Justin Jackson. I'm a product and marketing guy. Follow along as we build Transistor.fm and Spots.fm. We should keep mentioning that too, I guess.
We should. One day we'll build it.
One day we'll build it. So you and I just had a nice chat offline, and I think we should jump right into the topic, which is, I'll set it up with some background. Part of our customer value prop, feels weird even saying that, but people ask us for that all the time. One of the things we said we wanted to do is Transistor helps brands build their audience through podcasting. Do you think that's still true? Like, how do you feel about that right now?
Not really. I mean, I think that's where we want to go. I don't think we're necessarily doing that. I mean, we have the tools for you to publish it. I don't think we necessarily have the tools or are giving people the tools to increase their audience necessarily with the help, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's tough. I mean, yeah. That's what you think too?
Well, I think that's where we want to go. I think that is our focus, and that's what we're kind of betting on. one reason I keep trying to define that is because I feel like we need to know who this is for and how it helps them. And this kind of goes actually back to that post I was writing about, I was talking about earlier. I just published this to my newsletter. It's called Why Many Products Struggle and Only a Few Succeed. We'll have it in the show notes. justinjackson.ca/pentup, all one word. But the whole idea of the post is it came from reading this newsletter, this podcast newsletter by Nick Qua, I think his name is. And he has this line that's just drilled into my head. I have this feeling that everybody's drilling for oil in the same spot because some other guy found oil there. And that question, I mean, that statement freaks me out, right? It's like really scary because I don't want us to be a brand that's just drilling for oil where everyone else did.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen that before in other segments of, I guess, the tech industry or SaaS or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Online music streaming comes to mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's project management tools, certainly. There's still a million of those, although we just discovered one at Black Box and Cards that I didn't know was around, and it's amazing.
Are you going to switch?
We did, yeah.
Wow. What's it called?
We were using Pivotal for task management mostly, but it's called Clubhouse.
Okay.
Clubhouse.io. Friend recommended it. It seems new, but it's like it does so much and is so fully featured that it's hard to imagine that it hasn't been around for years, but it's just like, it's like if you put Pivotal and Trello together and then added on a bunch of other awesome stuff.
Okay.
It's really good.
And
anyway,
see, and that kind of goes into part of what I was talking about in that blog post. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that one stands out, and it kind of, they were also drilling for oil in the same spot, but they're doing a really good job. But also, I didn't know about them, so a friend recommended it, and I probably would not have found out about it otherwise, but like they're doing it slightly differently and better, so the incentive to switch is there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's obviously a bunch of different dynamics that have to happen for a product to be successful. And even for them, they're going to need to eventually capture enough of the market that they can. It's almost like you always have to own the market. You have to be the thing that people think about, where in that particular niche, that's what people think of. And so maybe Clubhouse will become what people think of once they've tried everything else. They're like, okay, I tried Trello, tried Basecamp, didn't work. And now there's this one thing we know works. Similar to what happened with Slack, I think. Like, were you guys using other things before Slack?
We used, when I started at Cards, that was 3-4 years ago. They were using what's the one? I want to say Bitbucket, but that's GitHub. That's a GitHub thing. The one that's owned by Atlassian, I think. HipChat?
HipChat, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I had used Slack with some other personal stuff. It was still really new. But yeah, they were using HipChat and then switched to Slack and never looked back.
And do you remember why they switched?
I think it wasn't doing anything new, and like everybody was using Slack.
This is why do people switch? What makes one thing better than the other?
I don't really remember why, but it was the new thing. I mean, it was, HipChat would have worked fine. I mean, it's a chat room.
Yeah. With
files, it did most everything the same, just didn't have all the integrations, yeah, there was motivation there somewhere.
Well, and see, sometimes the new thing lasts and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
Like sometimes, there's like Google Plus is the new social network, but people don't. Everyone flocked to it, but it didn't stick, right?
Right.
And there's actually, I'm been meaning to read this book, Perennial Seller, by Ryan Holiday. He spoke in Chicago when I was there, and there's this. I'm trying to find this this one line, but basically one of their points is that humans tend to use what other humans are using, or humans tend to do what other people are doing. So if it feels like everybody is using Slack, that's almost sometimes enough motivation to switching. Like you don't want to be the loser that's not using Slack, right?
But it's not like people are using it and hating it; they're recommending it, and it's personal recommendations go a long way.
Yes.
For anything.
Yeah, word of mouth. Exactly. This is exactly kind of hitting on what I want to talk about today, which is, and it's a big point in Ryan's book, that ultimately the only thing that matters with anything is word of mouth.
Yeah.
And how do you generate word of mouth? And I think if we think about Slack, like if everyone had switched and it sucked, I think people would have been like, okay, well, I'm not going to use that anymore. But it became one of these apps. And actually, I think one of the reasons it succeeded was it was just more fun than HipChat.
Yeah.
But it became something folks would talk about in a coffee shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it was also free to sign up and start a room, and then you can invite your friends for free.
Yes.
So it just spreads. It's like, I guess Cards Against Humanity is kind of an example, but it's a physical product, but you get a group of people together in a room, 8 people, and one of them has the game. In the early days, if everyone enjoyed it, everyone in that room is going to go buy it.
Yes.
And then it'll just spread, and they'll have one of those people will have a party with 7 other people who don't have it. Most of them will go buy it.
Yeah.
That's word. I mean, it's word of mouth, and I don't know how that translates into the podcast market. I guess the good thing about podcasters is that they talk a lot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and I think as we're exploring this question, so just going back a step here, I opened this up by saying, what we're going to talk about today is this value prop that we said we're going to give our customers. Transistor helps brands grow their audience through podcasting. So one of the things we've kind of aligned ourselves around is helping our users increase the number of downloads they get every month. Mm-hmm. And so if I log into our account for our show, that's one of the things we're looking at is do we get new subscribers every month, right? And I'm looking a lot at let me just click through here so I can remind myself. So right now we're at 1,200 subscribers. Transistor, one of the things it does for you is it helps estimate how many podcast subscribers do you have. And, I want to see, is that number increasing? I want to see, are we getting more downloads, right? And so last month in July, we did more downloads than we did in June. And that's encouraging to us. And we know that that's the same kind of feeling our audience wants. They want more listeners, right?
Yeah.
And so this means we have to figure out new and novel ways to promote other people's shows. And, that could mean features like this new YouTube thing you just built. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we had how did that even start? I think we had a customer who was like, hey, I just posted, I turned my audio file into a YouTube video and uploaded it to YouTube, and my listeners have been like really loving it and thanking me that I did that.
Yeah. That was...
and I know I've seen this before, and I knew... It was Joe?
Joe, yeah.
Joe Workman?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I knew that Google had an API for YouTube. I had never really used it. I think I used it once to like read information from it, but never create the YouTube video.
Yeah.
So I didn't go that deep yesterday. I actually created a Google account for Transistor so that we can use OAuth to authorize people to hook their accounts up to Transistor.
Cool.
But what I did do was use a command line tool for Mac and Linux called FFmpeg.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Which is like has been around forever. It's open source. It can convert so many different files into other audio and video files. It's incredible. The face is a little bit clunky, but what you can do is take your audio file for an episode. You can pair it up with either a video or an image that's like a video resolution image, 720p or whatever it is. Basically tell FFmpeg to run that image on a loop, so it just is a static image in the background, and then merges that with your audio file and turns it into an MP4 video file.
Yeah.
That can then be automatically uploaded to YouTube through their API, and so you can title the title of your episode. You can upload your show notes right to YouTube.
Yeah.
Probably tag it. I'm assuming you just choose the account once you connect YouTube to Transistor. You can choose which account or channel you want to upload it to. Mm-hmm. And then it'll just do it in the background when your episode publishes.
Yeah. Which could be cool.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be nice. I mean, YouTube is huge. People listen to a lot of stuff on there.
Well, and when I asked Joe, I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you uploading, all your podcast episodes to YouTube? He said, well, I have tons of people in my audience who already subscribe to my YouTube channel, and they listening to watching a new YouTube video is just part of their routine right now, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, if I can automatically put a new video in my YouTube stream, then I can reach my audience where they're already at, which is, an advantage for him.
Yeah. Right. It's less work for the audience.
Mm-hmm. So we could focus on building more tools like this. Like we could automatically syndicate to SoundCloud. We already automatically syndicate to Spotify.
Yeah, we can auto tweet.
Yes.
Facebook, maybe.
Oh yeah.
You can.
Yeah, I mean, that's a feature I think we should definitely build is as soon as you publish an episode, Transistor will automatically create a tweet, Facebook update, LinkedIn update. You're going to have to create a LinkedIn account for that, John.
Oh, I closed mine down years ago.
So,
those
are cool features for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of app social media for you, but not really with a podcast focus. I'm thinking of things like Sprout Social, which is in Chicago. There's all these platforms that sort of like let you manage your social accounts from one place.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think we would build anything like that, but
no,
at least having you broadcast, publish once, broadcast everywhere type of thing.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, it's another opportunity for integration. We could integrate with Buffer and Sprout Social and Meet Edgar and all these other apps. But I think there's still one big problem. There's an elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to have to help folks deal with it first. And this is hard for me to say even. But before you get distribution for that thing you're making, whether it's a product or a podcast or a blog post, or it doesn't really matter what it is, before you try to amplify it and get it into a bigger audience's hands, you need to make sure that what you've created is good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to... Most podcasts are not that good.
No, I mean, what's that old saying? Content is king. So you have to still create compelling content that's well spoken or well written, or.
I mean, yeah, that's the low watermark.
Good. Yeah, that sounds good. That is edited. Yeah, it's tough.
And at the end of the day, you could have all of that. It could be great audio quality. It could be edited well. It could be, but if it's not entertaining consistently, so,
right.
Some shows hit it big out of the gates, and we've seen this because we can see, all the stats on the back end of Transistor. We care about our customers' stats. We want them to be reaching a bigger audience. And one thing I've seen, a pattern I've seen, is some shows just hit it really big out of the gates, but the concept just doesn't have legs. It's not enough to make people want to, listen all the time. I found this especially with daily shows. I think, again, folks, if you're listening at home, I'm going to say all sorts of things that are my opinion. They're not necessarily Jon's. They're not necessarily Transistors, and you're not going to like some of them. I'm just saying what I think. But I think unless people are begging you for a daily show, I think a daily show is very difficult to maintain over a long period of time, because from what I've seen, daily shows just accumulate in people's podcatchers. And if it's the idea is it's a quick 5-minute or whatever, I don't think people are going to, eventually people get tired of them, and they create such a backlog that they're like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to unsubscribe and I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two different types of daily ones. I feel like there's the ones that are time sensitive and have to do with the previous day's events. Mm-hmm. And then there's the evergreen ones, like, let's say, the Good News Podcast is sort of a good example. They don't really deal with topics that are timely. Mm-hmm. It's just like interesting stuff, and it's 5 minutes, and you can up episodes in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
In the car or like at home on a Saturday morning, right? You can play the whole week.
Yeah. And yes. And so obviously like the Daily, if you look at the Daily, I think that's New York Times. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super popular.
I can't listen. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
And I subscribe and I listen once a week, and then I'm like, I have so many other shows to listen to, and I don't have a commute to work, so I don't have that downtime to listen.
Yeah.
It gets backed up.
I was gonna tweet the other day. So I was like, I rarely have to drive anymore, but sometimes it's just nice to go for a drive to listen to some podcasts.
Yeah, or like go on a 5-hour plane flight.
Yeah, like I need to jump on a plane and go somewhere.
No, I mean I listen to it. Yeah, it used to be for me. I need to get on a plane so I can get work done because there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
but that's slowly going away.
Now you just want to get to podcast inbox 0 or whatever.
I don't personally stress out about it too much, but I know that some people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're competing for people's attention in a really crowded space. There's what iTunes says there's like 500,000 shows on iTunes, which I'm sure most of them are bad.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, like, who is making all these, and also where are they hosted? Because like,
oh yeah,
does Libsyn have 200,000 of those? Like, I don't. They've been around the longest, probably. They might.
They probably do. They probably have most of those. Yeah. By the way, folks, we're trying an experiment today that Jon did not agree to, which is we're broadcasting live right now on YouTube and Twitch. For some reason, Periscope didn't work, but there's actually people showing up right now.
Yeah, this might void our agreement.
Yeah, this might void our partnership agreement.
It might.
But one person, Brian, said, "Jon, you need a commute." I don't know if this person knows you or if he's just.
I don't need a commute.
Anyway, if you're watching live right now, I would love to know what you think about what we're talking about so far, because this is a great opportunity for you to actually give us some live feedback. What shows do you listen to? What makes you stop listening to a podcast? If you're not listening live, please tweet us at Jon Buda, at MIJustin, or at Transistor FM, and let us know, like, how does this resonate with you? Is this make you, when you're picking podcasts, when you're listening to podcasts, what makes you stop listening? And what shows do you get tired of? What makes you, get tired of a show? And I think, there's something about all that is interesting to us right now, because we're trying to figure out how to, help people who are making shows. And I just think a lot of folks are making shows that people aren't listening to. And
I think so.
And it makes me sad. I think there's, it could be, I don't know, it could be different. And so I think the question I want to ask, and we're probably not going to be able to figure this out this episode, is how can we help people make better podcasts? And maybe to start with, let's just keep going on this thread, which is patterns we've noticed so far that don't seem to be working. So going back to Nick's quote, which is so great, I have this feeling that everybody is drilling for oil in the same spot.
Yeah.
Because some other guy found oil there already. So they listen to, they listen to, well, the big one is every show sounds like This American Life now.
Mm-hmm. So, probably they'll probably start sounding like The Daily soon.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like Serial. People will start doing more of those.
Yes. And yeah, there's something about this. With 550,000 shows to choose from, what's going to make this next show that someone starts work? And I think Nick has he thinks makers have two options. Number one, build something that does the same thing for the same audience but does it better. So, maybe the Washington Post, I think the Washington Post is doing this. They're starting a show to compete with The Daily.
Okay.
But Nick says, if you're going to do this, you better bring it. Like, you really better be way better than, what else is already out there.
Mm-hmm.
Or option two, identify and pursue a pocket of pent-up demand that is yet to be unleashed. So instead of creating the same show that everyone else is creating, or using the same format everyone else is using, or having the same, what's that guy's name from This American Life? What's the host name?
God, I don't remember. I haven't listened to it in a while.
What's his name? This American Life. Hi, this is I think we just failed as
man, it's on the tip of my tongue.
This American Life. What's that guy's name? Everyone wants to be him. I can't think of it either. Ira Glass.
Ira Glass.
There we go. Brian on Twitch had it before I could even Google for it. Ira Glass. Everybody sounds like him now, right?
Yeah.
And instead of going out and finding a new pocket of oil, a new digging deep for the gold.
A new energy source.
Yes, a new energy source.
Entirely.
They're just trying to do the same thing that everyone else is doing, and
right.
There's got to be ways of there's got to be tips we can give people that I think at least could help them create shows that are unique. And so one thing I mentioned is I think most people should not be doing daily shows. That's one tip. I think daily shows are really difficult to do, and I just haven't seen from talking to people, from actually, like, I'll go into a coffee shop and I'll say, "Show me your podcast player." And when people show me their podcast player, there's a lot of daily shows that are just built up there.
Yep.
And
yeah, that's a tough one. You almost want to make it so that your show, your episode that comes out is like an event for people.
Yes.
So I've been listening to the Wilderness recently, which is the Pod Save America guys, or one of them.
Okay.
And it deals with like the history, current, and future of the Democratic Party in America. But it comes out every Monday. So they released like 4 episodes up front that he had done like 8 months of work on.
Okay, yep.
So this is like intense. Like he researched, he interviewed, and then every Monday there's a new one. And like I look forward to that.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's Monday. I can listen to the next episode in this like story they're telling about the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Yeah, you want the one thing in the old in my improv days and even my public speaking days, I used to have this mentor that would say, the best thing you can do is leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
Like if you like have them in the pocket and you're doing a talk or something and you've just got it in the pocket and you know that they're enjoying it, you know that they're just hungry for it, and you leave it just like you've got maybe 10% more to say, and that's where you end it because you want them to check out the next talk. You want them.
Yeah, I mean that's modern television too.
Yes, that's right.
I think it's good. It's good storytelling. I don't know. Maybe it's manipulative in a way, but it is good storytelling and good ways to build an audience.
Well, I mean, now I got to defend whether or not this is manipulative.
Maybe not. I don't know. Not in a bad way, really. I mean, it's like you're getting people addicted to it almost.
Yeah, I mean, that's an entirely different discussion. I think I think another thing is I think not all podcasts should last forever. Like, there's been so many shows that I really enjoyed for a season, and they should have just ended it and done something new with a new concept, because I would have followed that host somewhere else. In fact, I think more shows with popular feeds should consider starting new shows in that feed. So, let's say you build it up, like us, for example. We've built ourselves up to 1,200 subscribers on Build Your SaaS. I don't know if I want to do this show forever.
Right. I mean, at some point we have built the SaaS, and then we...
Like, yeah.
I mean, it's never going to be done, but there's only so many things you can talk about.
Well, and at some point, like, are people going to want to hear about, okay, what'd you do today? Well, I fixed a few bugs. I answered 500 support tickets. Right. Like, it's not entertaining, and we could have this feeling of like, well, this is just what we do. We just all the time we go and listen to, we go and tell people about what we did, because that's what we do. We create the Build Your SaaS podcast. And I'm not even talking about like the Built Your SaaS podcast. Like, that's not interesting either. But we could take the same feed that we've developed, because we have 1,200 subscribers. They're waiting to be entertained. And, maybe even right now, maybe we need to stop doing this show.
We could do a season 2 that's something else.
Yeah. But my point is, we don't even have to call it Build Your SaaS. Like, we can take the same feed and say, create a new title, new show art, everything, and all of a sudden it's a new adventure. It's a new season, but a totally different show. And maybe, instead of just you and I talking, every week we say, okay, this week we've got Jason Fried on the show. We're going to argue with him for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Or we bring on hosts of shows that we host, like podcast hosts, and we still are talking about podcasting, but in a different topic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I think that's something people should consider, is that you don't have to do the same concept indefinitely. Because just think about your own experience. Like, okay, here's a good example. One of my favorite shows, I think Merlin Mann and Dan Benjamin have some of the best co-host chemistry I've ever heard. They have a show called Back to Work. I was a huge fan of the show when I was commuting. Like, this was the show that took me through the doldrums of driving into Edmonton. And their chemistry is unbelievable. They've got all these inside jokes. They're just they're great together. But the show is supposed to be about productivity, and it's almost like it's time for them to do something new.
Right.
Like, and I think their episodes are about an hour long. I haven't listened. Every once in a while, like every couple months, I'll be like, okay, what's going on with Back to Work? But I don't listen every week like I used to, because it's like, it just seems old and tired.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's, same with like a TV show that's gone on too long.
Yeah. But if they decided to do just with the same feed, like if all of a sudden I saw a new show art pop up in my podcast player, and it's like a new show from Merlin Mann and Dan Benjamin, and instead of it being like, I'm looking at their website right now, an hour and 11 minutes long, an hour and 21 minutes long, I just can't do those shows anymore.
Yeah, it's hard.
But if it's a 20-minute or a 30-minute show, I might listen again.
Yeah, but on a different topic with the same chemistry.
That's right. Different topic, same chemistry. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So on that note, maybe a side note to the hour-long podcasts, maybe something that we can suggest to people is to have to talk slower, but for the same amount of time. So when people like me listen to it at 2 times speed, it sounds okay.
Are you talking to me specifically right now?
No, not you. No, there's a lot of other hosts that talk pretty quick, and then
I like this new John.
Almost back speed.
John is getting sassy. This is our new podcast is called John is Getting Sassy. I think trying new things and actually getting real feedback from real listeners and not being afraid of them telling you what they think. Mm-hmm. I ask folks all the time what they think about this show, and people say, one thing that has sometimes been difficult is, Justin, you can talk forever, and if you don't give John space to speak, it just doesn't happen. And so that was good critical feedback, and I'm working on it.
Yeah. Or I think another one of those was like, give John space to talk about technology topics and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was something like that.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of technical people that listen to the show. What they like.
It's obviously easier for me to talk about that than it is marketing or.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we want that feedback, and for example, we could change our show so that it's like 15 minutes of tech talk and 15 minutes of business talk. And that's just the format every week, right? We could change our show so that one episode we just talk about a tech topic, and the show description says, Tech Talk Tuesday, and that's that's like Jon's episode to dive in deep. And maybe I'm not even on that show. Maybe you're just talking to somebody about scaling Rails,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have someone else on talking about technology.
Yeah. So I think people can't be scared to mess with the format and try new things. And, you get immediate feedback. I had one person at a conference say, I have this podcast called Mega Maker, and he's like, man, I love your show, but the intro music goes on too long. So the intro music goes, bomb out, bomb out, bomb out. And I go, in this episode, I talk about something. Bomb out, bomb out, bomb out. Welcome to Mega Maker. And then there's this big, long, heavy metal guitar riff. And he's like, just get rid of that heavy metal guitar riff. I'm like, okay, I'll try it out. Tried it out, and I got like a torrent of tweets of people going, what the hell, man? Why'd you take And like I love this image. Some people say like they were listening on their earphones, and they've got their hand, like they do the air guitar, and they've got their hand ready for the next big riff, and then it didn't come. And they were like so disappointed. Oh, no. So, it's okay to try things and then get the feedback, and, eventually you got to make a decision.
Yeah. I mean, it's, as far as what to talk about, how to do it, I mean, there's a reason that, what is it? What was the Hourglass show we just talked about?
This American Life.
The show and the name. This American Life. There's a reason it's popular is because it's well done, and there's a reason it's copied is because that format works.
Yes.
But I think within that space, there's room to make it your own.
Yeah. You. How are you going to compete with This American Life? Right.
Right. I mean, it's a well-produced show with good music and quality recording equipment, and it's it's a lot of work. It's many people's full-time job to make that show, so it's...
Yeah.
I think you can get close on your own, but...
Yeah, and Brian here in the chat is saying, he says it's not the format that works, it's that Ira Glass is a trained pro.
Yeah.
And so some upstart who's starting their own show on Transistor, and they don't have, they just don't have that broadcast training. Why would you go and compete head to head with Ira Glass? Why would you try to dig in his oil well? Why not try to drill where you've got the advantage, right?
Yeah.
And so, one good example might be Remote Ruby, which is a show on Transistor, remoteruby.transistor.fm. Chris Oliver and Jason Charnes, they know Ruby. And so they don't sound as good as Ira Glass, but people are interested in their show because they're interested in Rails, right? They have a built-in advantage there.
Right, just like it's much easier. It would be much easier for me to host a show on my own or lead a show, I think, if it was about Rails or about programming than it is for me to lead a show about building a product or marketing a product.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you saying, are you trying to break up with me?
No.
There's actually some other good comments in here in the chat here. Dio Glanes says, for me, podcasts are learning and getting new ideas. Best episodes are the ones that have some sort of well-defined topic, and the length for him is also important. So 25 to 30 minutes is ideal. Hour-long podcasts are just too long. Yeah. I think a lot of folks don't also realize that people are making their decision when they're looking at their phone, right? Like they're going through all the podcasts they could listen to, and they're like, oh, that one's an hour and 30 minutes. Well, I'll leave that one, right? Oh, This one's 15. Okay, I've got 15 minutes. That's how people make their decision. And so the length is important. One idea I have for folks is if you are doing a longer show, if you have an hour-long interview show, do the hour-long interview show, but then make a shortcuts episode or a hot takes episode, podcast. So take the best, 10 minutes from that show, like where you really got into it, and just make that a standalone episode on a different show. So if people want to listen to the whole interview, they can. But if they just want like the real like meaty bits, like here's what, here's what Britney Spears has to say about podcast hosting, that becomes the 10-minute episode. I think this is the second time I brought Britney Spears on.
Yeah, that seems like an out-of-date topic.
I don't know why I'm doing that. Anyway, I think that's an idea. You could have an hour-long version, a 30-minute version, and a 5 to 10-minute version, right? And that's all from the same amount of content. You're just editing it differently, and it becomes a different show each time you mess with the format. By the way, on Transistor, you can do this really easily because you get unlimited shows. You can create unlimited shows on one account. If you look at like my account, there's tons of shows in here. And so if you wanted to try a new format, that's something, we allow you to do really easily. Anything else you think that any other ideas you have for folks creating shows?
No. Well,
I think one thing people do need to think about is if they've really been pushing a show and they're not getting the downloads they want, it might be time to try something different.
That's true. Yeah, it's good to know when to close it up.
Yeah.
Move on.
And in some ways, we were lucky with this show. Like, just out of the gates, we had people that were interested. And if we were only getting 20 downloads per episode, I think you and I'd be like, okay, we got to try something else.
Yeah.
Now we've been recording for a while, but there's something else I wanted to talk about was, again, how can we help people make better podcasts? And there's this new tool out called Alitu, which is it's an editor that allows you to like make podcasts really easily. And I tried it out, and it's interesting. It's basically like editing in the browser. Let me see if I can log into my account here and just. So you can like define, like you upload your theme music once, for example, and then every time you upload a new episode. So I could just like take this episode we just recorded and be like, okay, I'm just going to pull it into Alitu or upload it, and it automatically puts our intro music at the beginning and at the end, and you can just publish it like that if you wanted to. But then they also have, if you want to edit out pieces, you can do that on the web. And I think this idea is interesting. But I also have ideas on how we could do something like this better.
Right.
And to me, this is kind of the missing piece. This is a pocket of pent-up demand because people need help creating better episodes. And I was thinking about an idea that's a mix between these two things. So, yes, give people help with the editing, but allow them to actually record their show in the browser as well. So, for example, imagine you log into a web app, you click record new show, you can hear the theme music playing in your earbuds, and on the screen, it starts giving you the text for your intro. So ours is, you say, hello, welcome to Build Your SaaS. Well, that appears on the screen, so you can start reading it at the right time, right? Mm-hmm. And then basically it gives you a script for the whole show. So this week I'm talking about this, and it keeps giving you, what do you call that? Like a teleprompter for
Right.
here's, this and this. And also making it easy. Like, I think one great show format is having people leave voice messages and then asking you a question and then answering that question in the show. And so being able to quickly grab, here's a question from a listener, and then in the web interface, it just goes right in there. And then they can say, okay, up next, and the transcription is just going with this. Up next, I've got a question from, Eric in Alabama. And then it automatically plays Eric's clip. And then you go, oh, well, that's a great question. Here's my answer to it. So more kind of podcast recording and production on the rails.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an interesting
Could be, yeah.
idea, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're limited in what we can build, but I'm just saying, those are the kinds of things we could do. Part of the problem is that people there's so many things to think about when it comes to creating a show, and having visual cues could be helpful. Even for you and I right now, it'd be nice if on screen it said, you're at 45 minutes, time to wrap it up, right?
Yeah. People are going to start getting bored.
Yes.
So if you're at this point and you're bored, sorry.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the tools are part of it. I think that's not everything. You can have great tools and still produce a really boring podcast, but
yeah,
I think that it kind of segues into the next thing, which is education that we provide for people, which is how to craft a good show. Mm-hmm. How do you set up a good narrative? How do you interview people well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because obviously there's, if you're a writer, anyone can write, but there are ways to write well. There's ways to write fiction well. There's ways to write nonfiction well. Yeah. And that stuff just takes tons of practice and education and.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
The same, I think, could be said for radio or podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so the tools, what you were talking about could sort of push people in that direction. And
yeah. But you're right. I mean, this is kind of a common thing we keep going back to. Like Derek Sivers says, don't try to build a big, impressive app. Just try to do it manually first.
Yeah.
And so one thing we could do is, we're broadcasting this live right now. We could do live broadcasts where we just help people produce and record better shows. And we could have guests that really know what they're talking about. We could, there's all sorts of ways we could educate people on making better shows. And so, yeah, I think that's one option is just trying to teach people how they can make better shows. And then the other idea was some sort of done-for-you services, which we've thrown around before. Our friend Adam is doing this with Podcast Royale, and he kind of takes that exact approach. He's not just an editing service. He actually helps you create the concept for a show. He really helps you craft the whole concept.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could get into that business. We could do a partnership with someone like Adam. We could, there's ideas around that. I also had this idea early on that, maybe we could, if part of the problem is, people just not knowing how to craft a good show, we could do podcast hosts as a service, as in someone that is good on mic that calls you every week and says, all right, whoever you are, let's talk about your business this week, and what do you think about this? And then being kind of the interviewer for the person who wants a show, but, they just want someone to call them up and say, okay, it's time to record, and here's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of work, but those are some things I think we should be considering. Anyway, let's leave that for now. Folks, if you've got ideas, feel free to reach out to us. And all the places I said before. Also, if you're on Breaker or Castbox or any of those apps that allow you to comment, just leave us a comment, and I'll try to go in and answer your questions right in those apps. We already talked about the YouTube integration. Anything else we should talk about in terms of Transistor?
There's a number of, on the topic of integrations, there's a number of integrations that I've been thinking about and maybe like just starting to poke around with.
Okay, yeah.
Some of it comes from customer requests. So the cool thing is that you have all these services that all have APIs and they all have OAuth support, so you can sort of link up, let's say Google or Dropbox to Transistor. Transistor then gets some sort of privilege to that account that you can read or write to it. It's all a fairly common interface. Like each service obviously has their own API, but you can do things like publish to YouTube. You could do something like hook up your Dropbox account in a particular folder to Transistor, so that anytime you drop a file into Dropbox, it automatically adds it to Transistor as an episode, an unpublished episode.
Yeah.
There's Auphonic. I don't know how to say that. It's another podcast service that I think it allows you to edit your show, but also you can easily run it through like a sound compressor, I want to say, or basically it makes your voice sound better.
Yeah. Yeah, it levels all the audio for you, and it actually does a really good job.
It levels audio. So you can build an integration that allows you to hook up your account to Transistor so that anytime you upload an episode, I think to Transistor or maybe Auphonic, it would auto level it and basically send it back.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's... What else? Yeah, those are like the three big ones I've been looking at right now. So it's all around the publishing like workflow sort of.
Yeah.
And like not requiring us to build those things from scratch.
Yes. Yeah. And I actually really like this idea. It's actually one of the reasons I wanted us to build spots outside of Transistor, as I've seen so many apps get really big and hairy because they keep trying to add functionality inside those walls. And I think whenever we can, if we can integrate with someone else who's already doing this well, for example, that Alitu, I've talked to that guy. I think his name's Colin. He says as soon as John has an API, an upload API.
Yeah, I think I scheduled a call with him or someone else.
Okay.
Just to go over how we could work together.
Yeah. So I mean, whenever we have that opportunity, that's going to be awesome. That's definitely what we should do, especially because we're only two people, and really the majority of the building is on your shoulders. So I think that's super interesting. And the anything else we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about this ProfitWell thing?
Yeah. So we keep getting. Well, we talked about the Stripe dashboard last week.
Yeah.
But they don't really send us updates on that.
Yeah.
But ProfitWell will send us an email daily almost.
Yeah.
When it changes. So like we got an email yesterday that said you're 578% ahead of your goal.
Yeah.
Which makes it sound like
we're killing it.
Just raking in the money and we can retire and buy a yacht tomorrow. But
yeah,
obviously that's not the case. But anyway, it's a big number. That means a lot of people signed up.
That's right. Yeah. Do we want to? I think is our number still live on Indie Hackers?
It is. Yeah, I don't.
Is it?
It is. Yeah.
Is it updated? Let's see here.
Oh.
Because I was like, I'm wondering if we can just share that number, what we're at right now. It's still pretty low. I think it's fine to.
Yeah, I don't know how often that updates.
Anyway, so we're at $1,263 in MRR according to ProfitWell. Up 62% versus July, is that right?
Could be.
That's what I mean.
Although I don't know if does that take into account people who just signed up for a trial and haven't canceled yet?
Yes, it takes into effect, so that growth number that it's giving us right now, it's saying we're up. Now, see, this thing changes all the time. So right now, we're up 1,058% over July, and 844% versus our goal. I don't know how does it know what our goal is?
I don't know. Did we put that in somewhere?
I don't know. Maybe I put maybe it just calculates what we wanted for growth. Oh, I think I put in 10%. And so, yeah, so it's it's just saying every time we beat 10%, I think that then, it gives us a good goal. So yeah, we launched, and so we got a ton more signups, and yeah, now we're and actually that's a pretty big deal. We didn't even celebrate this. If we broke $1,000 in MRR,
oh yeah,
cheers, man! Did we do that for real?
We should cheers. So yeah,
the only thing that kind of worries me is that the Stripe numbers are different.
Oh,
so let me just go into Stripe here quick, because if anyone's listening, Patrick Campbell from ProfitWell, if you're listening, or Patrick McKenzie from Stripe, if you're listening, yeah, why is Stripe's numbers different? So again, actually, I've told a lot of people about this since you mentioned it, John. This is actually one clip that got shared quite a bit from our last show. Is you saying, "Hey, folks, check out the new MRR analytics within Stripe." But yeah, in Stripe it says we're at $1,059 in MRR.
Huh.
So I'm not sure why those numbers are different.
I don't know, cancellations that haven't moved over to Indie Hackers.
Not Indie Hackers, ProfitWell.
ProfitWell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at what Indie Hacker says yet. I couldn't find it fast enough, because there's what is it? indiehackers.com/products/transistor? Is that what it is? I can't remember. But we had an episode on, being super transparent about our revenue, and that was what we chose. But yeah, but if Stripe says we're over 1,000, then we must be.
Yeah.
So cheers, man.
Cheers.
I'll use this empty coffee cup that Brian has noted. Brian notices me. I keep drinking out of this, and he's like, "Dude, this has been empty for an hour." Bing. Eric says Indie Hackers has us at 1.6K. So I think we just believe whatever numbers we want to believe.
So we're over 1,000, I think.
We're over 1,000. I think we could cheers to that, but yeah, who knows what we're actually at. But yeah, that's exciting. That's a big that's a big what you call it? Milestone.
That'll cover some bills.
Yes.
Cover some costs for the company.
Oh, you know what we should talk about next week? Little teaser here, folks. Let's talk about all of the feedback we got about the Bootstrapper's Paradox.
Okay.
Because there's tons of people like Natalie from WildBit, Des Trainer from Intercom. They all commented about that episode, and they have things to tell us. So
okay,
that might be a good episode for next week about
let's do it.
SaaS growth and how fast you should be growing and all that. Cool. This was fun, man.
Yeah, it was good.
I kind of liked having the live comments. It's fun. Thanks to everybody here in Twitch, on Twitch and on YouTube. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for watching. Listen to our podcast, Build Your SaaS in your podcatcher. And yeah, for folks listening to the audio version, we'll see you next Tuesday. Beauty. Okay, I'm going to just end the.
That was a long one.